welcome to the special edition of Voices from the Valley. I'm Shereen Bhan. My guest today is a serial entrepreneur. He decided to make the Valley his home over 4 decades ago, and he's been part of the chip and microprocessing industry and has really watched it change, evolve and grow. Today, he's betting big, not just on AI, but specifically on the digital story that India is hoping to ride on. Joining me today to talk about his previous ventures and, of course, his vision for the future is Raju Vegesna. Thanks very much for joining us. And what a wonderful view we have here. And it's the most appropriate to get your view on how things are shaping up. But let me start with your story going back 40 years when you decided to come to the US to pursue your master's degree. And you never left. And you decided to start up 4 ventures on. What was it that gave you the confidence to say that this is going to be home?
So I think coming from India, right, and the opportunities United States provided, it's a great opportunities. You can look at it. What is United States?
Yeah.
And that started building my base. Then now I'm expanding to India. So my confidence is, I think the technology is continuously is going to evolve.
Yeah.
And if you are on it, I think you're never going to be lose, That's my confidence.
So let's talk about how you actually started. And life for you or work for you began at Motorola, and you were part of the microprocessing and chip industry going back almost 4 decades. From there to where we are today, this battle between NVIDIA with the lion's share of the market, AMD trying to sort of get into it as well. How do you see the chip wars today?
So the way I look at it, I started with the semiconductors in the 80s. And there is a big semiconductor boom at that time.
Yeah.
Then afterwards, internet came.
Yeah.
And afterwards, the social media. Now is AI. So I'm seeing this 4th wave of AI. So what I see is this is technology is going to be evolved, and there are going to be, people who can take the lead. When in the microprocessors, era, how is Intel took the lead.
Yeah.
And now, NVIDIA is taking the lead in AI. And I give a lot of credit Jensen and team, innovating a lot of new technologies. Not only they're spending the money and investing, and then also the kind of the things they're doing to the world, it's the greatest things, And I think they have edge. But there is no business is going to be monopoly.
Yeah.
Over the time, I think people is going to be innovate new things, and there will be a great competition. And that is the way I look at it, is the technology is going to be evolved. But give a credit, Jensen and team, they're doing excellent job to driving this technology. And they're investing continuously and working, I know Jensen very well. He works very hard. And, I give the credit a lot of, taking the lead.
Yeah.
I think that's what world needs,
Is for leaders to drive innovation. But, when you started your first company, your first venture, what was it? What was that spark that made you want to start up in 1988 as a 28-year-old?
So one is, I came up always in my body a bug, having owned my own company. So after working for Motorola 4 or 5 years, when my boss started, let's Raju start a new company.
Yeah.
And I already have in my mind, I want to do something new. And so sometimes, you don't have so much baggage in your head.
Yes.
And you want to try.
Yeah.
So that's what motivated me to start. And I never looked back. So I was a hardcore microprocessor designer.
Right.
And building very tough microprocessors. And that's the way I started my career. So that is my fundamentals of, how I build up my career, building the startups.
Yeah.
So after the first startup, Ross Technology, doing the microprocessors. Then I did the company called Servoworks, moved from Austin to Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
Like everybody thinks Silicon Valley is the, is intellectual and everywhere, the kind of technology. I believed in that. So I moved into the Silicon Valley. I started a company called Servoworks, designing chips around processors, Intel processors. And that is the way we put, Intel processors into the server market. And we captured good share of the market, worldwide market.
Right.
Then we sold it to the Broadcom.
For $1.8 billion.
1.8 billion plus.
And that was huge money back then.
Yes, it is huge money. And also, it's not only the huge money. One of the things our venture is different is there is no venture capitalist funded.
You never wanted to take on any VC funding?
No, never. Because for me, venture capital is more of a money than a strategic partner. Always I look for a strategic partner.
Right.
So we found a strategic partner, Fujitsu from Japan.
Yeah.
That is the way we started the ServerWorks. And the journey went very well. Then after we sold it to Broadcom acquired ServerWorks, we started Server Engines.
Yeah.
And that is basically a convergence between the network and storage technology. So that is, again...
And exited that as well?
Exited that with Emilex, bought that company.
Yeah.
And then, after doing 3 startups in US, and I have a crazy bug in my head, I want to do something always in India.
In India.
And that is a bug, and I'm spending last 15 years. And before Sify, I never exposed it to
the Indian market.
Indian market.
Yeah.
Because I never worked.
Yeah.
As soon as I graduated from my Bangalore University, I moved to US.
Yeah.
So first experience is Sify. So it's a great learning experience. And working in US and working in India is completely different. If you are running an operational company, it's a different. Culture is different. People are different. And priorities are different. So ownerships are different. So that's what we are looking at. And last 15 years, we made a great progress in Sify, changing from consumer-centric company to enterprise-centric company, and building one of the biggest enterprise network in the country, and building one of the best data centers in the country, and building one of the best private cloud platform. So what is we are positioning Sify is the digital infrastructure company of India. That is my vision. I want to try to be digital infrastructure. I think that's what absolutely required for in India. I think how much you build physical infrastructure, I believe digital infrastructure is the most important. And that is where we focus.
Well, talking about building digital infrastructure in India, you talked about data centers as well. And this is going to require enormous amounts of capital, and that's the kind of commitment that you're willing to make. So take me through the CapEx plans that you have outlined.
So we started, from our own cash, funding the data centers. Now, also, we took some investment from Kotak.
Right.
One of the reasons, you can ask why you took money from Kotak, you never took from anybody else. I have a lot of respect the group of Kotak, and especially the way Uday Kotak runs the company. And I want to have some validation. Having that kind of, investment. It's not the money we cannot invest, but I think that brings a lot of value into consideration. And that's the way we started. And there are plenty of money is available. And I think it's a question of the thing how much we invest. Probably we are looking at investing probably $5 billion by 2030 to building the data centers and the network.
So $5 billion over the next 5 years by 2030, that's the CapEx plan for you. But let's talk about the data center expansion as well as the data center explosion. I mean, it almost seems like there's not going to be enough with the kind of demand explosion that we're seeing. I mean, has this surprised you?
No, I don't. No, I'm not surprised, because if you're looking at even, forget about before the AI, even the cloud models, I think it requires a lot of the data centers. So especially a country like in India, we are still, IT usage is small. I know people can buy the IT in the corporations, but having this cloud, either hyperscalers or a private, public, or hybrid, this gives us the usage of IT in India across the thing is much better. So I think the potential for IT usage in India is very high, because it's a long way to go. And having 1.4 billion as the corporations are built to serve this 1.4. Second is now this AI gives the next kick demand.
Yeah.
So having AI requires more demand of cloud and the data centers. That gives also next growth of the data centers.
Right.
So I'm not surprised, and it's going to be continuously is growing.
Yeah.
So for me, 5 billion. There is a lot of people is going to spend 5 billion in India, and I'm going to be one of them.
One of them.
One of them.
But you're also looking at moving outside of the big cities now and address the smaller cities in India as well. So, innovation, but inclusion as well. That's one of the pillars that you're working on.
Yes. The way I look at it is in India, it's not only the 6 or 7 metros we have. The way I look, next 20 cities is going to expand, like Lucknow. Or Vizag, or Chandigarh, Nagpur. All these cities is going to grow because the kind of populations we have, the kind of growth is coming, the kind of consumer market. When you look at the malls in these cities, how much populated in these malls. So to support the enterprises, we need the technology close to that, because some of these inferences workloads are a low latency requirements.
Right.
It has to be expanded into this close to the eyeballs. So all those requires demand such edge data centers. It's not just providing a POP or something. It's there's a confusion between a POP versus edge data center. For a network, POP is important. It's not much workloads, but when it comes to the edge data centers, really you are doing a good amount of work at the edge. That is the way I look at it. So that's what we are working on it. So building in these 6-7 cities major data centers and 12 to 15 edge data centers requires a lot of capex. And that's what we are focused by 5 billion. It's a good plan, and it's not the thing we are going to spend in one day. It's by demand. So we build the basic building blocks, and then we can expand. So for example, our 150, 130 megawatts of data centers, we will start with 20 megawatts, and as the demand comes, we're going to expand. But we will build the basic infrastructure required to go for 130, 150 megawatts. Similarly, the small edge data centers, ultimately we want to build 10 to 15 megawatt, but we'll start with 3 or 4 megawatts.
And then cater to the demand as it kicks in. But, as someone who has observed what is happening in this industry over the past 4 decades, one aspect that is probably the biggest headwind at this point in time is the cost. You believe the cost of inferencing is going to dramatically decline? I mean, and what will drive that? More competition obviously will drive prices lower, but what do you believe could be that trigger?
I'm a believer of technology we have to offer at the lowest cost. That is fundamental principle of the technology. See, technology is, when it's, I feel as a technologist, it's more people using. So when I build my chips for Serverworks, my kick is 95% of the worldwide using my chips. And
where all was the chip being used? Tell us that.
No, when I designed, when we developed those chips, it went to all the servers. When internet boom, I was not predicting I was doing the chips for the servers, but the internet boom came, and we are one of the biggest player, and all Intel processors, around Intel processors, our chips are used. So being, Intel is the very cost-effective solution at that time. Intel and the Microsoft, Windows, for a server market, we captured that kind of market. So similarly, with AI, the way I look at it is ultimately it has to be, available for a common man, like the way internet is available today. It's going to take time. A country like in India, it may take a little bit more time because we are more cost-effective solutions. Solutions will come. Today maybe the GPU cost is very high, but over the time innovations will come, and there will be competitions. I know in Silicon Valley probably more than a dozen companies are designing GPUs with a different aspect. And probably half of them or 1/4 of them will be successful. And then we will have much cost-effective GPUs. And that's the way the world is changing. And, NVIDIA and Jensen is going to drive the top end. And then people is going to drive the other aspects of the AI. AI is not one aspect, it's going to be evolved. Just we are seeing just, just at the beginning. And over the time, it's going to be there everywhere. Like the way internet is there everywhere.
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 AI everywhere. You talked about GPUs, and I think this is the possibility that everyone is talking about at this point in time. A made in India GPU. Do you believe that we're ready for it? Do you believe we're on the cusp of seeing that become a reality? Is that a dream that you have?
I think the way I look at it, I was thinking, see, India is a consumer of technology, the phase one. The phase two is we are a contributor for the technology. If you look at it, the kind of work our team, people are doing in Bangalore, Gurgaon, Noida, all the major, Hyderabad, Chennai, are major, 6-7 spots. What you supporting GCCs, GDCs. That is our contribution, right? So what is next stage? So I think that is done already. What is the next stage? Creation of technology. I think it's going to happen. It's going to be happen, and it's a question of the time. I think that is my dream is coming AI chip out of India.
Your dream is to see an AI chip coming out of India. I know that you're also working with the government. You're talking to the government. We have the AI mission. We have the semiconductor mission. Do you believe that that's enough? What more do you think we need to do? How do we involve the private sector more? Should the government involve the private sector more? What will make the Make in India chip happen?
See, my belief is I don't think we have to depending on the government for everything. Government does what it does to bring the social, economics. I think industry has to take that kind of a risk and have a passion to build the AI chip. I think that's what I believe India needs it.
Are you going to consider doing it yourself?
I may.
Yeah.
I will, and at some point, and I think not too far. I think my dream is producing AI chip out of India, and because
have you started working on that dream?
I'm working in my head.
The idea in your head to the idea on paper.
It's not the money. It's not the vision. It is the assembling of people, not too many people, probably 150 to 200 people with the same passion and have a hungry to develop for India. Once we assemble such kind of people, I think we can do it.
Are you going to find those people here in the valley, or do you find them in India?
I think hybrid.
Hybrid.
Yes, I think looking at experience the last 15 years in India, there's plenty of talent is available, especially the city I graduated, Bangalore.
Yes.
A lot of great chip designers, and augmenting with them the chip designers from Bay Area. I think we can do a kick-ass AI chip.
Well, we look forward to that, and we look forward to you making that announcement as and when you're ready to do that. But you've interacted with technologists, but you've also interacted with so many entrepreneurs who've built great companies here in the valley for the rest of the world. Which have been some of the standout companies that that you believe have had a transformational impact, and that you saw that when you first met them?
So the way I look at it, I interacted with Apple in 80s, right? I interacted with Google. All these companies have one thing, is entrepreneurship driven and entrepreneur passion. Even Oracle, Larry Ellison, right? Yeah. The kind of passion he has. See, that is the kind of, the product concept. That is what I see the valley is different from rest of the world, They want to make best products, and they can see the thing, what is a customer or a corporate needs to solve the problems, That's what I see the passion in these companies. I have a lot of respect all these companies, and I met most of these people in my career, and I learned a lot from them, and I think that's what is I don't say one company, but the way even Elon Musk is doing, and he's amazing the kind of things he's doing in a different things. It's not just one company, he's building 3-4 companies simultaneously, and it's mind-boggling, having that kind of vision and capabilities, it's not the question of the money, having passion.
Yeah.
I think that's what, ultimately, I think we'll get there in India.
But then that's what I want to talk to you about, because as you said, that what separates these companies that you spoke of from many others is the passion to build product.
Yes.
And the journey from being a services economy to a product nation, that is the journey that people believe India must now start to accelerate, must now start to take into the fast track. How do you believe we make that journey? What do you believe needs to be done to ensure that we actually pick up the pace on that journey as well?
So my belief is, I don't think there is any technology company in India today will do that.
Yeah.
I think it's the new entrepreneurs and new risk takers. Those are the people who is going to build the products. And the current so-called technology companies are tuned to the services. And they have their own challenges, and their mindset is different. So to build a product company, you need to have passion, and you need to have a time, and you need to ready to take a failures, and you need to get up and do the next startup. So that is the kind of passion people have to have.
Will you back that next startup?
Yes, and I not only back, I will be part of it. It's not, see, for me, it's not I'm a financial kind of advisor.
You're a technologist at heart.
Technologist. I want to assemble those kind of people and work with them to make it successful. That's what it is.
So what could potentially the fifth venture be? We've already talked about the aspiration to do a made in India GPU, but what else could you be looking at?
I think at least I can see the stack associated with AI. I think it's going to keep busy for next 10 years. I think it's just you seeing, it's not just starting from, chip and then, looking at layers on top of it, going through the application, service layers, like you're talking agents and all these things, right? So different layers. I think just we started. I think they're going to take a lot more time and a lot more, thinking how this is going to be evolved. It's going to be next 15 to 20 years. This is going to be continued, And if you look at the internet when it came in late 90s, and you see how much still evolving. Probably 90% is evolved, but still is evolving. So that's the way I look at it. It's going to take time, 10 to 15 years to get there. I think in this process, I see India has a great opportunities, and these entrepreneurs in Bangalore and Gurgaon and Noida. I think this is great opportunity for them.
Are there Indian startup companies that you like? I mean, that have got your attention today?
I didn't focus much but I will start focusing on this. And I see those kind of, when you go to a nice restaurant or a bar, you can see those talks. And see, because I seen Silicon Valley from 90s, 2000s, and similar kind of vibe going in these cities. It is a question of the time. It's going to happen.
You now split your time between the Valley, which is home for you, and India. How do you see yourself giving back outside of everything that you're doing for Sify, but how do you believe that you could play a larger role outside of business? I know you're also looking at philanthropy at this point in time. What's the plan there? What are you hoping to see there?
So what is, I don't know whether I have a foundation called Raju Vegesna Foundation. I started about 20 plus years ago. So we do a lot of clean water. I believe, water is one of the things is very important for health. Then we build some hospitals, and then we build, poor people homes and education. So we are contributing over the 20-25 years, but we don't brag much because that should be, kind of the things what, what is God gave us this thing.
Yeah.
I think we should contribute that, you should not talk more about it. So that's the way you look at it. You can look at it, our foundation, Raju Vegesna Foundation.
Right.
And we are doing for last 25 years. That's the way I look at it. See, beyond that, my passion is, that is one aspect of it, helping the poor or whatever it is. Second is helping, coaching, and creating the jobs. For me, creating a jobs, especially now with AI, we have to do it next level. It's going to be more skill jobs, whatever you call it. So helping how India can transform to these more skill jobs, that's where I'm looking at. That's the reason one of the things what we are doing, going into this tier 2, tier 3 cities, where people are worried, how this AI is going to be eliminating the low-skill jobs. Yes, any technology changes, comes, it will eliminate some jobs. That's normal. But how do we handle that? Make the people more skilled to take the next thing. And that's the way, they will have better challenge. I think that's the way the human kind will evolve. And that is where I want to contribute. For me, that's more happy than creating more jobs and more high-skilled jobs. I think that's that is the way I look at it. It's my contribution to the society.
As a technologist who's seen 4 big tech changes, tech revolutions, and with what you're seeing happen today, the change that's taking place and the pace at which the change is taking place, do you feel excited? Do you want to become an entrepreneur all over again and do your 5th and 6th and 7th venture, or do you believe that this is a tough environment to actually start up in comparison to your previous ventures?
I don't believe it's tough environment. People think I had your generation had easy life. Not like that. I'm looking at every generation
has its own complexities.
Its own complexity. But if you look at it, right, when we are growing up, going to the schools and all these things, doing the homeworks and all these things.
There was no Google, there was no ChatGPT.
Now, no ChatGPT. Now, you are getting a better tools. How do you use these tools to do the next level? That's the way I look at it. There is no, entrepreneur, there is no challenge. I don't believe one environment is easy other than. So you have to be, change yourself to fix into that environment. That is what I call the true entrepreneurship, There's nothing, people will be lucked, some, win, but they're done with that thing. But for me, doing, these 3, 4 generations of the startups, for me, I look at it, the AI, what is the opportunities is going to go, and beyond AI, all this stuff. It's a continuous journey. And that's the way, one of the, I want, God's give me the gift, still working until, my life went, creating new companies and new entrepreneurs and creating more jobs and working with the smart people around me. And that way I will not have a dull moment,
No, clearly not a dull moment. But, let's talk about some of the potential headwinds as we move through this era of AI and data centers linked to that problem. Power. And, renewable sources of power. Now everyone's talking about nuclear power, and that's sort of seeing a resurgence at this point in time, small modular reactors. How do you see that? And is that a space that you consider wanting to look at all?
No. Power, see, if we look at India, right? India has so much of power. And before this government, we had a problem connecting all these resources. Once this government came, it's connected all the powers together. So India never be shortage of power. The power generation. Power generation never be a problem, never been a problem. Now, with the renewable energy, with the sun and wind, I think that is one of the gift God also gave to India. I think we can use that renewable energy to augment the other sources. I think that is one of the advantages we can take advantage of. And then I don't know whether we need the nuclear or not. With our solar and wind power already have. If needed, we can use that also. But that way, I don't believe India will be shortage of power. I think India will have a lot of power. And see, the way you are asking me for AI, when I look at the stack of AI, one is we have to build a good data centers. Sify shown building a good data centers, not one. We shown in all three regions, in Mumbai, Chennai, and Noida. We are one of the first certified by NVIDIA liquid cooling, 130 kilowatt per rack. It's par with rest of the world. There are only 6 people can do it, and 6 people in the globe. I'm not talking India. And then we build one of the excellent network. Then when you're building a data center, it's not just building a beautiful building. Not. People think data center is real estate. Data center is not a real estate. Data center is a technology. I want to tell the real estate people, it is going to be a technology challenge. It's not a building. Yes, you can build a nice building, but how do you connect the data center with the rest of the world? You need to look at a good fiber network. Then the other point is renewable energy. How do you going to secure the good renewable energy? And how do you make these operations more effective? See, in the data centers, to operation, there will be thousands of variables. So now what we did, you're asking me AI. I took advantage of AI. Our data center operations using AI ops, we automated. See, that is where I look at it. It's very important. How do you look at it as a technology? And as the AI technology is getting more and more complex, I think you are going to build these data centers much more complex. So that is where it's a technology center. It's not just a data center,
Yeah, it's not a real estate play. What are some of the other myths that people have about data centers? What are some of the other assumptions which you believe are false assumptions that people have about data centers?
Yeah, people think data center is a real estate game. Data centers is a technology, and it's getting more and more complex. And if you look at the AI, the way it's going to be more complex, and it's a technology. And the way you use equipment, the way, PUE, power efficiency, how you're going to get, and water efficiency, and energy, and all those things, carbon, footprint, how you're going to consume. And the IT technology is evolving around it. It's going to be much more complex. And maybe people thinking, okay, it's a real estate game, I can build a nice building and add them into my portfolio. But I think that game is over.
That game is over. Yes. We're talking about chip manufacturing in India. We're going to see the first chip being rolled out of an Indian fab, hopefully by the end of this year. Players like Tata's are now in the fray. What excites you about that story, but also what do you believe industry needs to keep in mind and be sensitive of as we start commercialization?
So I think that's a great start. I think I don't know whether at this point India can build top-notch chip fabs, because that is going to be very expensive. And also you have to have a consumption. Building is one thing and having utilized. Otherwise, it has a time and it's going to be outdated. So there's not going to be enough return of the investment. So beyond the top, state of the art, there are other semiconductors you can do around it. Let's start with that. And building the ecosystem around the semiconductors and go step by step. In my view, being in a semiconductor guy, it's not a day process or a year process. It's probably 30 years. So, when people talking about we are investing 10 billion, I think 10 billion per year, next 30 years. I think if government can commit, or whatever it is, private industry can commit, that kind of a 10 billion per year, and next 30 years, I think India will see a light. It's not going to be a 5 years, 10 years plan. If you want to be one of the top recognition of the semiconductor, that is a long-term process. Because
it's a long-term process, and it's a big capital commitment.
Yes. Yeah, and the commitment and passion to investment, those kind of risks involved. But as India is growing, its internal consumption also increases. So our defense, our commercial, all those things also required. Our cell phone usage, all those things required semiconductor industry. It's a good bet. I think it's not too late. I think it's good. It started, and it's going to take a long time, 30 years.
30 years and $10 billion a year for the next 30 years is what it will take to create something of significance from a global perspective.
If you want to not name, India can produce semiconductors, it's going to take, because there are, because the technology is so advanced, and like Taiwan and US, and it's not just building a fab or investing capital, and the skills available is also important. So how many colleges are teaching to run a semiconductor? It's a very, very demanding efficiency operations. And one mistake can cost a lot of money. So that's the reason India has to focus in all angles before saying that I'm going to be semiconductor. Yes, you can build a semiconductor, maybe small things. But if you want to be the leader, please get ready. 30 years, 10 billion every year.
30 years, 10 billion every year. I think that message has gone out loud and clear. But I want to ask you this as a serial entrepreneur who started 4 ventures, exited those ventures, made a lot of money by exiting those ventures as well. What would your number one piece of advice be to entrepreneurs who are starting up, more importantly, entrepreneurs who are scaling up at this point in time?
Yes. So the way you have to look at, sometimes you exit, sometimes you continue, So that is a tough decision. And for me, Sify is, I'm going to keep it. And generations, I'm building Sify. And entrepreneurs should have a passion. You have to come to work. I'm going to make a difference. Beyond, if you look for just, I'm going to make a rich money and calculating every day, it's not going to go anywhere. First, you have to have a great passion to build a startup, to build an entrepreneur. So that is the way I look at it should be a part of your DNA. That is the way I look at it. A true entrepreneur, don't count money, how much you're going to make. Don't come to work, how rich you are going to get. What you are going to do that day, how you are going to make the difference in the global by doing what you're doing. That should be thinking, and that is what you have to be sleep with,
You said that you're not going to give up Sify, and Sify is going to be your way of creating impact, not just in India, but for the world as well. So you laid out a 30-year plan that India must have to become a semiconductor player of any significance. What's the 5-10-year plan for Sify that you can leave us with?
No, I think we are going to be, like said, we want to be the digital infrastructure provider of India. That's what we are building Sify across the technologies. Today we are talking data centers. Today we are talking the network. Today we are talking the cloud and AI. I know it's continuously, as the technology is evolving, we are continuously is going to bet, and that is the way we want to be relevant for Indian digital infrastructure.
Well, that is the dream and ambition, and you've heard it from the man himself. Raju, thank you so much for speaking to us here on Voices from the Valley. We truly appreciate your time, and we wish you the very best of luck with Sify as well as with your plan to do a Made in India GPU. But thanks very much, and thank you for sharing with us your dreams, your hopes, and your plans for India.
Thank you.
Well, with that, it is time for us to wrap up this edition of Voices from the Valley. From all of us here on the team, thanks very much for watching. Do visit our YouTube pages, our social media handles for all the information that we brought you here from Voices from the Valley. But from all of us here for now, from the team, thanks very much.